Is Mike hot?
They said Mike Hawk.
There's only one man.
You like video games. You like movies. You like CBA. You love CBA. Welcome to CBA.
We're turned on.
Only always.
Hot mics all
At this
around. Well, welcome to the CBA podcast, or as our friends know us, the Serial Bears and Aardvarks podcast.
Yes.
Welcome to I was about to say another episode. This is the first episode.
The very first episode.
You're listening to the birth of a podcast right now.
Yes. This is the birthing from the canal of the Den of Iniquity.
Oh, yes. Broadcasting live currently, like right now as I'm talking.
Well, sort of
I'm
live.
also talking.
Yeah, that live in the sense that at one point we spoke it, and it's right now. All right, so on this podcast, we just talk about kind of a roundup of what our entire site's about, of media, news, information, reviews, whatever it may be.
Video games, movies, YouTubes, Vinies. Is that what they're called? That's what Vine videos are called, right? Vinies?
Are they really Vinies?
I think they're called Vinies. And Twoots. We'll also be getting celebrity tweets every now and then. That's the dark web's version of Twitter. They allow 146 characters per tweet.
All right, so before Cicada catches on to us, we're going to go right into the news corner. And what we got first is EA, Electronic Arts, has been talking a lot lately, specifically about Star Wars and Star Wars video games. They recently announced that they are doing a new Star Wars game every year for every 4 years. Now, they've only had one so far that I'm aware of with Battlefront coming out.
Yeah, I feel like we would know if there's another one too. I'd hope.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't see any other YouTube video besides EA produced Star Wars game commercial.
They didn't try to just slide one under the radar.
Starring Jennifer Lawrence or something. I don't know, in the trailer. But yeah, I guess, how does that make you feel? Are you excited?
I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited at the prospect of any Star Wars game, regardless of like. I don't know if I can say that the ratio of good Star Wars games to bad Star Wars games is positive. Like, it might be that there are more mediocre and bad Star Wars games than there are really great ones. But I hope, I mean, I guess if you're gonna make a bunch of Star Wars games, one of them will probably tickle my fancy. Like, I'll probably like it. I wasn't a huge Battlefront fan. I played it for I bought it because I'm a sucker, and then I played it for 3 weeks, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still think. I mean, I think we agree. I still think the best Star Wars games were Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah,
I think those are some of the best as far as just solid, awesome game, and also cool, kind of expanded universe storytelling that has been done with Star Wars ever. I really wanted The Force Unleashed to be good, and it was good, but it wasn't I don't know.
Well, when Force Unleashed first came out, I liked it. It wasn't my favorite game ever, but I liked it. I think more that I went back and tried to play one, and I never had played two, so I played one through again, tried to play two, and it just didn't. Not to get too far into Force Unleashed, but it just being such a dark side story, and not having my lightsaber just annihilate people was kind of frustrating.
Yeah,
I'm hitting a stormtrooper 6 times and no dismemberment, or maybe an occasional arm will fall off, but I don't know. And maybe it's just because of technology, you had to do it that way. But I would like to see a Star Wars game in the future where if you have a lightsaber, they just have waves and waves of stormtroopers, like tons of them. And that's like the challenging part. Whereas an individual stormtrooper is nothing basically, but having them all there is the challenge.
Yeah. Well, and so they've talked. So we know that like, have they talked about a Battlefront 2 or just big expansions to the current Battlefront?
I wasn't clear on that. They made it very much sound like it's a direct sequel.
Okay.
And in that same, I think, was that an interview release? I don't know what that was.
Press something.
But he said something about how we're very aware that people weren't happy with no campaign.
Yeah.
And that it didn't. That they weren't happy with, like, basically they essentially said like basically their meta score.
Right.
It was like it's a 70 and we're not happy with that.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a lot of people on the campaign, so it made it sound like that was a plan for the future. But he said the reasoning was because of timeline wise of when The Force Awakens was coming out. They wanted the game to come out at the right time to sell the right amount because with the hype of The Force Awakens,
which makes sense and is also the point where you should realize that you're making your decisions for the wrong reasons. I think, like, I don't know, but I do think it's interesting. So they have announced they've only announced one other studio that's working on Star Wars games, right? Is Respawn. Oh, two? Who else? Visceral. That's right. I do think it's funny that they announced that and then they said Respawn is making a Star Wars game, because Respawn's only game was Titanfall, which people also complained about there not being a campaign in. So I don't know if it's just like this like Alcoholics Anonymous group of like non-campaign video game developers. They're like, I made Titanfall and now we need to make stories. I don't know.
I imagine though, like, so yeah, I felt the exact same way about Respawn having one, and I feel like, I don't know, that's something I definitely lack, because like, I assume, though, that they'll have BioWare doing, since EA owns BioWare, and they made Knights of the Republic. It's considered the greatest Star Wars game of all time. And so, why not, make them do another one? Which, like, I don't know. We all hate EA. It's like, they're very much like, that's why they're making decisions the way they're not supposed to, is because they just want to make all the money. It's the same thing, like, how Microsoft kind of has been, but especially was before Phil Spencer took over, of run by businessmen, not people who love the art form, basically, or the community. And so I feel like I'm also kind of just, I'll compare it to this. I'll compare it to when I got into high school, and I'm like, oh, there's a dance every year. There's multiple dances every year, but there's prom every year. And it's like, this could be a good thing. I could go on dates, and I could hang out with beautiful women and stuff. But then the sad reality set in when I got into high school of, oh, I'm me and I'm not what the market's looking for. And I feel like EA is kind of like me in high school right now, where like, yeah, like they're doing okay, but it's not what the market wants. It's not what the people who truly love video games are wanting. And so I'm hoping they're seeing that with like comments like that. And like, I know John Boyega recently like tweeted at them, was like, hey, how come there's no campaign? But essentially just called them out, which I wonder if he got in trouble for it all by Disney.
Yeah, also Snoop Dogg called them out on Twitter. So
did he really?
Yeah, like, I mean, that's, once Snoop Dogg's on your tail, that's pun intended, you better watch out.
He's got a bone to pick with you. Yeah, like, really quick side rant, Snoop Dogg should do Let's Play videos.
He should.
I'm just I know he listens to us, so if you're out there, dog, get some Let's Play videos going. We'd love to see you play Battlefront, or anything really.
I'd love to see Snoop Dogg play PT. I think that's a video that needs to be made.
Yeah.
Contact us. You can come over. We both have it. Do you still have it?
I actually never had it on my PS4.
Oh, you didn't?
I played it on your PS4.
Oh man. Yeah, I still have it because
I played it on someone else's actually.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to like delete it because I know I can't get it ever again. So,
all right.
Anyways,
but yeah, like, I guess to finish off, like, another big problem I had with Battlefront was just the mechanics of it.
Yeah, was
like, everything looked beautiful. Everything felt like Star Wars. The music was great. I just felt like. And this is a problem. This is what makes or break first-person shooters for me. Is when I am shooting a gun, does it feel heavy? Does it feel like it's doing damage?
Yeah.
And a lot of shooters, it doesn't. Like, that's why I couldn't get into the Call of Duty franchise, is because I felt like my gun weighed nothing and I was running around super fast, just blowing everyone to bits. Whereas, like, I know I'll get crap for this, but Halo, I feel like, does a good job of it. And it's not necessarily not that you're not moving around fast. It's a lot of things go into it. And I think those things are sound design and also animation, on how well the animation reflects the gun and what speed it's moving at, as well as something I never thought about until I read an article on Destiny, actually, when they were making it, was where the gun is actually placed on your screen, what segment it is, and just even a slight difference in angle can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it. And so I feel like Star Wars, it's like, I feel like they nailed the sound design, but I think everything else might have been what those other couple things kind of made it.
Yeah, well, I mean, even like the art and like the visual design of Battlefront is pretty awesome. Like it looks good. But yeah, it doesn't, but there's like a disconnect between the way it looks and the way it feels. Like it doesn't feel like, for something that looks so like kind of almost photorealistic in some cases, and then to feel so like disconnected from that, I think is like one of the major faults. But yeah, and I wonder too, like, maybe that is a thing that Respawn brings to their Star Wars game, is maybe, you know, because I mean, Titanfall, I had a lot of problems with Titanfall, but I actually enjoyed a lot of the time I spent with Titanfall when it first came out. And
I enjoyed getting the crap kicked out of me for 2 hours.
So I'm interested to see kind of how they do that. And I think with Battlefront 2, they focus so much on kind of wanting to like almost emulate the older, you know, the old games, which is great, but it's almost like they chose the parts that I would not have chosen. Like they made it feel like the shooting and stuff, like those mechanics do feel really dated and like kind of years old at this point, you know? Whereas the things I liked about Battlefront were like, I loved like Galactic Conquest, like stuff like that. That's like, that's not even necessarily like a campaign. I mean, it is, but it's not. You're not watching cutscenes during Galactic Conquest. You're just moving your ships to different planets and taking them over, you know, which can't be that difficult to do.
Something satisfying about it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's like popping pimples. I don't know. Like, when you get one, you're like, aha, I've got that one. For now, at least. It may resurface later, but I got it for now.
Yeah. Cool. So on the flip side of that coin, though, EA did release the trailer for Battlefield 1.
Yes, they released the Battlefront 1 trailer. Is that what they're calling it?
Battlefield 1.
Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
Which is really confusing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, when naming conventions, we had the Xbox, then the Xbox 360, now the Xbox One. Next will be the Xbox 2, if there is one. Who knows? It'll just be a PC at that point. I don't know what's happening. I mean, and then the Nintendo Wii. I mean... Anyways, naming conventions are super messed up. So it's all, you know, whoever wants to just name anything, whatever they want, go for it. So, but yeah, what are your impressions of Battlefield 1?
Battlefield 1. Terrible use of Seven Nation Army. Other than that, I thought it looked pretty good. Like that's not really like, I guess like, military shooters aren't usually my thing. Like they're fun. They're not like, usually I don't think they're garbage, but it's not like, usually the narrative's pretty shallow and the gameplay gets pretty old after a bit.
Yeah.
But no, it looked pretty cool. It looked I like the World War I setting. I think that I always wondered, like, growing up playing World War II games, because that was the big thing when I was in my early teens. Yeah. Everyone had a World War II game. And I was like, it looks like no one cares about what happened years earlier. There's this huge conflict, and so I don't think I've ever played a game besides Valiant Hearts that's explored World War One.
Yeah. I think, and I think there's a few reasons for that. Probably, like, I think probably up until now, like, kind of the technological aspects of making World War II, like, largely what is trench warfare interesting. I think maybe. I don't know. That's not like something that fits into kind of the traditional shooter mentality.
Yeah.
And also, I think World War Two is World War One is maybe one of the uglier wars. You know, because you have a lot of like chemical warfare and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see kind of how that stuff plays into it. If there is like kind of that basis in history that can make it really cool. Because we were talking about it. I mean, I know that this is a special Battlefield game because I am actually thinking of playing it.
Yeah.
Like, I am not interested. I've never really been interested in Battlefield. I remember when Battlefield 4 was coming out and they were showing, that's when they were like demoing the new consoles and stuff, and I was like, wow, that looks really good. But then I never played it. So, but yeah, I'm interested to see and kind of contrasting that to Activision's announcement of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and the reaction that both of them are getting right now, I think says a lot about, I guess it says a lot about what people value in video games right now.
Yeah. Well, I think you can look at it a few ways. You can look at it as what people value in video games right now. You can look at it as in people really hate EA.
Yeah.
Or wait, did they do Battlefield 1?
Yeah.
Oh, no, never mind. They hate
Activision.
Activision, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone hates Activision.
I feel like they're both hated, so it's interesting to me that they're not both getting hate.
Yeah.
Since they are both running.
Where's Ubisoft's shooter that can be in this mix so that everyone can hate it?
Yeah, Rainbow Six had one last year, so
yeah.
they don't have anything right now.
Yeah.
And theirs is always more like tactical SWAT based kind of things. But so yeah, I guess Infinite War.
Yeah.
Call of Duty Infinite War, which doesn't come up in your search suggestions when you look for it on YouTube, apparently, because it's that bad. As last I heard, was the second most disliked video on YouTube.
Yeah, like let's see. Let's get an updated count on these dislikes. We're at 2.4 million dislikes. Which it's funny.
How many likes are there?
384,000.
Oh.
so
this video has been viewed the crap out of.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's funny because I feel like in the last month, the like and dislike buttons on YouTube have all of a sudden become important to stuff. Like, people, like the Ghostbusters trailer, I know, was like, people did a huge campaign to dislike the Ghostbusters trailer and stuff, but anyways.
Yeah, which I feel like that was the other thing that this could, like, you can kind of look at it like internet culture and like fanboy culture.
Yeah. Of
like, I don't know, is that an okay thing to do? To start like a campaign to dislike videos just because you want, like, and not let people kind of like, hey, here's this video, share your opinion on it, as opposed to, hey, you should have my opinion, let's go together and say like this is the worst thing ever. It's like people are just making multiple accounts to do it. And
it's a really weird thing. But I think, I mean, I guess like you've seen the Infinite Warfare trailer, right?
I've seen both of them. Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I didn't have a huge reaction to it. I haven't played a lot of Call of Duty. I played like the campaigns through Modern Warfare 2, I think. And then I've played Black Ops 3, but I got about a quarter way through the campaign and I haven't played that at all. And I play a lot of multiplayer, which I've never done with a Call of Duty game. So I don't have like a dog in the fight, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like there's a part of me that says I like Infinity Ward as a Call of Duty developer more because I liked Modern Warfare, the original Modern Warfare and stuff. But I don't really know, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that community wants from a Call of Duty game at this point. I don't know if they just want Modern Warfare 3 again or what. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I saw it the day it launched and before this all came raining down everywhere. And when I first watched the Infinite War trailer, I was very much kind of... I was like, oh, it kind of just looks like very similar to the other Call of Duty trailers, just in a futuristic setting. Like, there wasn't anything... Other than that, there wasn't anything very much different about it. And so, to me, unless other people are seeing something completely different in gameplay or something that was enough to really piss people off.
Yeah.
Just the change in setting, which is weird because you have Battlefield going back in time, and you have Call of Duty going forward in the time in the future. And I don't know. I just guess I don't get why people are so upset.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously, Call of Duty gets a lot of crap online from people, even though tons of people still buy it, which I don't get. But, like, it's just the cool thing to do, and that happens. This is a whole other subject of internet culture and how it's stupid. But yeah, so like, I don't really get why people are so upset.
Yeah. I don't necessarily get it either, and but I do think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting to see the praise for like Battlefield 1, because I think I think you can say that both these games are taking risks, and I guess Battlefield 1's for taking the more interesting risk, or like the risk that I'd be more willing to explore, I guess, and feel like I'm more excited for it because I feel like it might actually be a new experience as a shooter, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, I think about. I mean, it's kind of the easy thing to talk about, like first-person shooters. That's kind of what dominated everything. Still, kind of does dominate. I think it's slowly falling off as people begin to realize that a lot of them are just cloned from each other, basically, you know, and like copies of copies of copies. But yeah, and I think it's interesting because going back to, we talked about Destiny's mechanics. I think Destiny might be one of like the best first person shooters mechanically I've ever played. And like, that's the reason I kept playing Destiny, because we all know there wasn't enough there for someone to keep playing Destiny. But yeah, and so I kind of hope for something like that with Battlefield 1, like something that kind of changes first person shooters for me, I guess. And I don't know what it would be, but maybe even just a new setting is enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
No. Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like Battlefield is the one I'm more interested in and might actually play. And it is because, I don't know, we've seen, like, honestly, like, a big part of it is just we haven't seen a World War I shooter really done. That's at least a good AAA title. Like,
yeah.
But we've seen countless space first-person shooters.
Yeah.
And we've seen a ton of Call of Duty. So combine those two things together, it's like, do we really need that?
Yeah.
Whereas Battlefield 1 is, okay, like, provide something at least new that we can see if we need.
Yeah. For sure.
Cool. Well, it's that time of the show. I'm going to let you do it because I butchered it last time.
Oh, it's time for our favorite segment. Hello, the media.
Yes, and hello, the media. We just talk about things we've been consuming lately, and this can be any time in the past month, whenever. It's whatever we want. It's whenever, but that we consumed somewhat recently, and talk about different aspects of them. So yeah, we're gonna start off with something we've both played and beaten recently, and that's Uncharted 4. Just kind of start off. I guess what were the
we're gonna go into spoilers and stuff right now too, right?
Oh yeah,
is that what we're gonna do?
Yeah,
okay,
we're gonna go into
good.
spoilers. Okay,
Good,
so
good.
any of you spoiler-free people, get off.
Just turn it off and go buy Uncharted and play it. That's all.
That's it.
That's all you need
have
to do.
I did it I pretty much did most of my playing. I just stayed up all night and played it. And
Yeah, it's really easy.
it's
Just forget everything else.
just
Just play Uncharted 4.
yeah.
This is Naughty Dog talking.
Tell your boss you were playing Uncharted. He'll understand. All right. Anyway, so first, did you enjoy it?
I loved Uncharted 4. I've loved I think every Uncharted game to varying degrees. And I think Uncharted 4 is a like very fitting and well-crafted end to the series, I think. First of all, it looks amazing. It runs really well. I can't really think of any like major glitches or stops or anything while I was playing. So from a technical perspective, I think it's just awesome. and story wise, I feel like with Last of Us and Uncharted 4, Naughty Dog has kind of established themselves as maybe the Pixar level storytellers of video games.
Yeah.
Because I always feel very invested and care about all of their characters, and not in a way that's like campy or goofy. Like I don't like love their characters just because they're crazy and weird, but because I feel like feel real emotion when I'm playing in a Naughty Dog game. So yeah, I really liked it. I really liked it a lot. But yeah. What about you?
I liked it a lot. I've never actually played through an Uncharted game. I've played maybe small bits of the others, very, very small bits, but I've watched all the cutscenes on all of them. So the only Naughty Dog game I had actually fully played was The Last of Us, which is in my top 3 games of all time.
Yeah.
And so I was trying hard because I knew it was going to be different. I knew it was going to be very, very different. So I was trying hard to kind of keep my expectations in the right spot.
Right.
And so I feel like I did a good job of that. I feel like when I started, I was like, I had my head in the right place. I was like, okay, this is a new kind of experience, and it was very different. It's a lot more lighthearted, a lot more actiony. Like ammo's way more plentiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot less tense, but at the same time, not. There's moments where it's still very, very tense.
Yeah.
I really liked, like I said, technical aspect. This is Naughty Dog does such a good job of, like, obviously there's PC games that, on a technical level, technically you could say look better.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, this is one of the best, possibly the best looking game I've seen, because they're very good at knowing where to put the energy into, basically.
Yeah.
Where to put the heavy detail and where to make it a little more sparse, and where you're going to notice it more, as well as shaders, like what heavy intense shaders to use, whereas the less intense shaders, less computing it takes to, in other places you're not going to notice it as much. And I don't know how they do it, who they got behind that, but they do an amazing job with that. So on a technical level, it looks beautiful. Mine ran fine. I didn't have any. I think I had maybe one moment where maybe the frame rate dropped a little bit to a noticeable level.
Yeah.
But that was like one very brief moment, and that was it. Everything ran beautifully. I feel like the strength of the Uncharted series. So The Last of Us is amazing on all fronts of storytelling, as far as like the narrative itself goes, because it didn't lose focus in, oh, let's find a cure for the whole story didn't revolve around it. It revolved around a relationship between Joel and Ellie, and kind of the world itself was almost a character. Whereas in Uncharted, I feel like this is almost purposeful, because it's so based off of like adventure explorer movies and stuff, and it's like very homage to that. Like, that's almost like the story just feels kind of, I don't want to say fluffy, but kind of not weighty, and almost not important. Where the strength really lies is, I feel like it feels like that. It feels very much like those movies.
Yeah.
But the characters feel very true always to themselves. They're not making decisions that are contradictory. They're written very well. They all feel like real people. Yeah. I feel like Victor Sullivan is a real person who I can go meet. And whenever I see like the motion capture set footage and I see his actor, I get upset because it's not him. And so I feel like that's a big strength. The camera in this game I have to talk about, because it's the best camera work in a game. Yeah. The Last of Us I feel like is on the same level. It's just different because.
Well, yeah, and I think so. Yeah, I want to talk about it real quick before you get into camera. Is the difference that I feel in. That's probably why I liked Uncharted so much, was because it is very different from The Last of Us, while still kind of maintaining the core elements that make The Last of Us great, and kind of infusing a little bit more of that into Uncharted 4 than have been in previous Uncharted games. I feel like they both do such a great job of The Last of Us is this very epic kind of grand journey, but it is very like gritty and like and part of The Last of Us I feel like is knowing how vast and grand your journey is, and then just seeing the series of 30-foot walls that stand between you and getting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so because of that, it has like kind of a claustrophobic, driving, kind of intense feel throughout it. Whereas I think with Uncharted, you do get these more like grandiose, kind of epic pieces, set pieces and things that you kind of get to experience and see. But yeah, go ahead about the camera, because that's
No, that was good.
kind of like what I was thinking.
But yeah, the camera in The Last of Us I loved. That was what made the gameplay so good for me, is because it felt so visceral and up close.
Yeah.
The combat, you felt it. All of, obviously, like the animation stuff was all key factor in that, but the camera is what sold it. It made you feel like you were right there. Each hit had an impact, and that's why. Then it has some of my favorite combat in games. So with the Uncharted though, there's more, I guess, more dynamic options for them, because there's so much more, especially on a vertical scale of gaming.
Yeah.
And like traversing levels, there's so much more to do, and the camera, like, gosh, I can't even think of a game that comes close to the camera work in those two games, especially Uncharted, because whether it be the using his grappling hook and how it follows him there, to how the camera follows him in set pieces, just everything just worked so good for me.
Yeah.
And made the experience so much better because of the camera.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one of the things I love about that game, is how it kind of, when as I was playing Uncharted 4, it really makes you feel as if you're kind of creating these opportunities for like these epic shots. Like, I think specifically there's one, it's after you've kind of found the pirate settlement, and you're at the top of like a huge tower, and you go to climb down, and the camera just kind of pulls back, and you see that mountain in the background, and then you as Nathan Drake are climbing down the side of this, decaying like ruin, and it makes you feel kind of awesome, even though you have like no control. You don't get to zoom the camera out and like frame this beautiful shot and be like, yep, now I'm gonna climb down and look how cool. It just feels like such a fluid and like rewarding experience, even in those little moments when you're just pulling down on an analog stick to like move down a tower. Like, it's just so good. Now, maybe the one thing about Uncharted 4 that I didn't like, but this is not unique to Uncharted 4. This has been my problem with all the other Uncharted games as well, is I do not like combat in Uncharted. There are points where I really hate the combat of Uncharted. And I think part of it is kind of going back to the idea of weight, like in combat and in first person shooters, kind of the weight of guns. I feel like Last of Us kind of took, because Last of Us is very similar to Uncharted's combat, but it is so much heavier and consequential, I guess, than Uncharted's combat is. And I guess I kind of had an epiphany this time as I was playing it. I started to think more of kind of those combat mechanics as storytelling mechanics. And in Last of Us, that means you hide a lot and you sneak around a lot. And if you get caught, like, you really are like fighting for your life, and just like these really intense situations arise from that. Whereas I think in Uncharted 4, I think what the combat mechanics are attempting to get you to do, and I just fight against it because my brain won't click into that, is like, I think in some ways it wants you to act as badass as possible. And that's how you are good. That's when you're good at Uncharted combat. And I, like, for some reason have just kind of this locked in, like, no, I'm going to stay behind cover. I'm going to like shoot at people when they pop out. And that's like a really annoying way to play Uncharted. And I still haven't like broken away from that, because I just can't. I kind of started to at the end. I was like rolling a lot more and like rushing people more and like using the cool, like the grappling hook in combat is really cool if you can get those things to work and stuff. But yeah, but it was still, that was definitely the one thing in Uncharted that I was like, still don't like this. Still don't like the combat.
Yeah, I think the I agree with the combat. It wasn't my favorite thing, which is so weird because The Last of Us is one of my favorite examples of combat. And I think like everything you just said is like exactly how I feel. It's just a big part of me was like anytime I tried to do the things that felt like it was trying to get me to do, I got killed.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why would I go try and do that? I'm gonna get this guy's sniper rifle, climb to the top of this tower where no one can reach me, and then just snipe everyone. Like, that's how I most play the game. The cover mechanics in it are bad.
Yeah.
They're just not good. And like, it's something I like can give a little leniency towards because like, in my opinion, Gears of War has some of the best cover mechanics, but it looks goofy a lot of times because you're just sliding into things.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to pick between what looks nice and what actually like feels nice, and so it's hard. It's a hard balance to get. A big problem I did have with the game was the beginning, the first almost half the game. It feels like it's holding your hand, like not necessarily holding your hand, just like there's not a lot. It's like linear to a ridiculous point.
Yeah.
Of like you don't really have much you can do, and it doesn't let you loose on things. But finally, at like halfway through, it starts opening up and giving you more sandboxy things to do, and that's when the game really shines. But that was a little annoying for me to start out. I think that's why I didn't play a ton my first sit down. I played like through a bunch of it, like probably like an hour and a half. And the next time I played it, I played for a half hour, and then the next time I played it for 9-10 hours. And then I beat it. So that was, I don't know, that and the combat were kind of my two big problems with that. But other than that, I feel like the game was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about with Uncharted is the story.
Yeah. Because
the story is, I mean, I get why people play Uncharted for like the set pieces. The set pieces are like the crazy, like you in a crumbling tower and like sliding down and like grapple hooking onto other things, or like even when you're chasing the guys that are chasing Sam in the Jeep, and then they're like up on the freeway and you grapple onto the thing and are getting, hanging on, like stuff like that is awesome. But honestly, a lot of times when I was playing it with the combat of Uncharted, I was like, I just need to get through this combat section so I can watch another cutscene, or like, so these characters can talk more, because it just like is so good. And it's I think part of what I like about it is, like you said, like the characters are so true to who they are. And the storytelling in Uncharted 4, I feel like it got pretty ridiculous in like 3 and 2 even. Like the storytelling gets to be where it is, like very much an Indiana Jones movie, you know what I mean? And this was almost like what you'd expect, maybe what Indiana Jones 4 could have been. Yeah. Like kind of this older, like kind of more mature story that deals with kind of what it's like to be an adult, like what should responsibility do to you, like I don't know, like what do you sacrifice for that and stuff like that.
Well, I think like I want to keep going on that, but I think there's no supernatural element.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The others all had some sort of supernatural twist kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even make that connection.
I thought that kind of connects into being the more mature themes of it.
Yeah, and it did. Yeah, it did basically deal with just the idea of straight greed. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't greed motivated by some like kind of ghostly like possession or like pushing driving force or whatever. But yeah, I mean, and I think that it did that so well. So it would have been easy for it to say we're gonna make a mature Uncharted game, And to be like coming from The Last of Us, be like, there's gonna be a lot more like sacrifice. There's gonna be like quite a bit of death. Like we're gonna get rid of some of these characters. You know what I mean? Like we're really gonna like kind of do that. But for them to make this like Uncharted game, this mature Uncharted game in a way that is very much still true to what Uncharted is.
Yeah.
And
it's still like lighthearted.
Yeah. And I got worried a little bit at the end. This is where we'll like get into spoilers and stuff, but the point they're on the pirate ship and it seems like he's gonna have to leave Sam behind, you know? I was like, I kind of had that feeling. I was like, yeah, this going for like a more mature storytelling. They're gonna get rid of Sam because someone has to die. And then he didn't.
Yeah.
And I was actually really happy that he didn't. And I liked the ending more where he didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because to me that made kind of Nathan Drake's decision at the end to kind of step away from the illegal adventuring, you know. It makes it more it makes that decision stronger to me, I think, because it's
more complete.
Yeah, it's easy to say, my brother died doing this, I'm never doing this again. You know what I mean? But to be like, well, we got out of it again. I always get out of it. I'm impervious, apparently, to like death while going on these adventures, you know? I think it was a much better arc for Nathan Drake to kind of have that and be able to kind of walk away from that life and start kind of a new, somewhat similar life. But you know, I really liked that, and I really thought that was a great choice. So
I think that I agree with that too. I didn't really think about it as much as you did, but now you've been talking about it, I think, yeah, it's almost like it's become cliche to like kill off people. Thanks, George R. R. Martin.
Yeah,
but like,
well, yeah, I think of what are like the two most popular shows on TV right now?
Yeah.
Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and so like, not to say that like killing off main characters is bad or anything, but I feel like people like get on a bandwagon and things like that. So it's almost like it used to be like cliche that everyone makes it out. Now it's like cliche that everyone dies.
Yeah.
And so it's like almost like taking a step back, and I don't know, but I feel like it did help the story more. And I love how they ended it where you're playing as their daughter.
Yeah.
And that transition was really good too.
Yeah.
That transition
was really
was really good. Really smart. And just like having that, I don't know. That's the thing that like movies will never have. Not necessarily never have, but it's a lot harder for movies to achieve, is to have the real quiet moments of just taking the world in.
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating about a lot of like movies set in sci-fi and fantasy settings is you want to explore the world more, but you can't because you're just kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
And whereas like this, and it's not even that kind of game, but it's still that moment where that I just like walking out on the beach was kind of like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like this is like interesting. And then just having that whole scenario played out how it did was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What was I going to talk about? Don't remember, but I'm pretty, because it had something to do with like towards the end there. So a lot of people have been complaining. Not a lot of people. I saw a couple reviews where they felt like Sam was like more of a narrative device than a character, and I can see it a little bit, but I feel like I don't know. I still feel like he was still enough of a character, and like because I feel like what is Ellie in The Last of Us?
Yeah.
Technically a plot device if you want to look at it that way, but she brings so much more to the table that it becomes more than that.
Yeah.
And I feel like Sam's the same way. Like technically, he's there to get the plot moving, but he also brings a lot of character development out of Nathan.
Yeah.
And has some himself. And so I feel like I felt like he was actually his story was handled really well in my opinion. And like Troy Baker, man, like think what anyone may think of Troy Baker.
Yeah.
If no one had told me that was Troy Baker, I would not have known.
No.
To think that him and Joel in The Last of Us are the same person blows my mind. The man's a robot. I don't know how he does it.
He's incredible. Yeah, I actually really like Sam, and I saw it mentioned in a lot of reviews of Uncharted for about Sam, and so I read those before I was playing it, so I was kind of like, oh, Sam's probably not going to be that good. But actually, I did really like him, and I liked kind of the idea of him, like he felt like the younger brother, kind of, like he definitely feels like the less responsible, and I think like the idea of that kind of being, I mean, he's been in prison for 15 years, and kind of like that was like kind of a cool dynamic to me, and then to be able to play as like young Nate and Sam, and in those couple sections, I don't know, I really liked it, and I thought it was nice to see like a more personal story about Nathan Drake, so
Definitely.
But yeah.
Yes. Another thing, just real quick, is I think talked about switching characters a little bit. I think something that they did really well was with their kind of plot twist of Sam lying to him about what happened to him.
Yeah.
I think having you play the chapter of his lie was really important to help sell it.
Yeah.
Even though about halfway through the game, I had my suspicions that Sam wasn't really telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like from the get-go, I wouldn't have believed it unless I had played as Sam doing that segment.
Yeah.
I feel like that helped it so much more.
Yeah,
and I feel
sure.
like that was just a really smart choice. I don't know how. Honestly, I'm just like floored by like Naughty Dog and their team and every single aspect of their team, and they're just amazing, skilled people.
Yeah, really good.
So, other media we've consumed recently. I recently rewatched The Social Network, and I wanted to talk about it because I the first time I saw it, I liked it a lot, and I thought, oh, now I know about how Facebook got started.
Yeah.
And I watched it again recently, and was kind of realizing, oh, some of this stuff isn't accurate, and then I was like, I wonder how much of it isn't accurate. So like afterwards, I did. Went to the truth, Google, the internet, the source of all truth,
truth.net,
and I looked up what the Bible of Wikipedia had to say, and according to that, there's a lot of things that weren't true.
Interesting.
Now, and even from like the director's own mouth of this is something we made up, and so I got to thinking, okay, is that really morally sound? To make so I have a problem with biopics. First of all, I don't really I have a hard time getting into biopics, and I've never had a hard time putting my finger on it. I think it's because of this reason of, is it morally sound to make a movie about where you're showing all the details of someone's portion of their life, especially someone who's been alive within the past century, where we can all just be like, oh, we now form opinions on based on this viewpoint here, and just people don't really understand that these aren't the facts.
Yeah. And
even though I do, and I look at them that way now, like I still don't like them because it's like, what's the point of me? Why? Like, because I think Social Network is a phenomenal movie.
Yeah,
it
is.
I
think
it's a really well written, well made movie. And I enjoyed it a lot, but I feel kind of like not necessarily guilty for enjoying it, but kind of like, I don't know, do I really want to spend my time on something like this? Because it's like, I can only I guess the way I view them, I can only walk away appreciating them for how they were made, and I can't appreciate the content as much because it feels not genuine.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like getting more and more prevalent. Like we've had 2 Steve Jobs movies in the last 10 years. Like,
and I've seen neither of them.
Yeah, I saw the last one, and I would argue with anyone who said that was a great movie, but But yeah, I mean, I think that. So I think in kind of thinking about this, like I feel like there's kind of 2 types of biopic. I think there is like a biopic that kind of reinforces what you kind of already know about a character or like about a person, which I feel like, at least I didn't see the first Steve Jobs movie, but the second one certainly did, like went out of its way to reinforce the idea that Steve Jobs is kind of a not nice person, you know what I mean? And which I don't know, it kind of feels cheap to do that. But then I also think of Love and Mercy, which is the Brian Wilson
which I still
biopic
need to
with
see.
John Cusack and Paul Dano, which kind of takes a, you know, I always think of the first time I even heard Brian Wilson's name was in the Bare Naked Ladies song Brian Wilson, which the chorus is like lying in bed just like Brian Wilson did. You know, that's kind of what everyone knew is at some point Brian Wilson kind of turned into a hermit and laid in bed all day and got really fat. And that's kind of like what a lot of people know about Brian Wilson, you know. And Love and Mercy is kind of this like it's this really beautiful movie of kind of maybe showing you that story in a way that you probably wouldn't know any. I don't know, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I think it's a tough thing. And I mean Brian Wilson, even like that one, I'm not sure how far removed we are from the contemporary bits of Love and Mercy, but I mean a big chunk of Love and Mercy takes place in the late 60s, early 70s and stuff. So but yeah, I do think it's an interesting question.
Yeah. I don't, it's definitely something I just thought of, and like if that's, I don't know. I guess that's the big reason why I won't go see a lot of them, and sometimes I just don't find them interesting because it feels like someone who's like trying to force their opinion of someone on you sometimes. But yeah, just watching this time, I'm really conflicted about this, biopics and The Social Network, and is Mark Zuckerberg a complete douchebag? Is he not? Like, I'll never know.
How much Jesse Eisenberg is Mark Zuckerberg? That's what I want to know.
Like, yeah, and it's like, I don't know. Never mind. I won't go into that. That's a whole nother subject. But yeah, I feel like that's, I don't know. It kind of is when we're telling stories through that medium. I feel like there's a responsibility you have to not. If you're doing something as a biopic, you should have the responsibility to do it to the best of your knowledge, how it is, and then let your talent as a writer kind of make it work, make it interesting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, this is a terrible example, but I always use this example because it's the best one. Like, There Will Be Blood is not a biopic, but it's a very boring subject matter. Someone tells me the plot of There Will Be Blood, I'm like, I am never seeing that movie because that sounds like the most boring thing ever. But I've come to really love that movie, and it's because they knew what they were doing with every aspect of it. And I felt like if you apply that same principle to biopics, then you can make it work.
Yeah.
But I know your media you've consumed that you want to talk about is Serial, and I feel like that leads into it of kind of some similar moral issues.
Yeah. So so I just barely listen to Serial because it's the year 2014 and it's still cool to listen to Serial. Basically, so I've been meaning to listen to Serial for a long time. I love podcasts and but I just never did. But so I have come to Serial after watching The Jinx, which is kind of another true crime thing on HBO, and in the wake of Making a Murderer, which I'm pretty sure is basically just heavily influenced by Serial. You know?
Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Making a Murderer?
Yeah.
I haven't taken part in any of these things.
Yeah. So I kind of like it was probably about like 6 months ago. I kind of went on this true crime bender and just watched like The Staircase, which is kind of the first of that type of documentary that was on Sundance, and then The Jinx, which is this super disturbing HBO documentary about Robert Durst, and then Making a Murderer is on Netflix, and Serial kind of came out in the midst of all of that. And the thing about Serial and Making a Murderer specifically are they have given birth to these large groups on the internet that know who is guilty and who is not. And through the power of the interwebs, they will bring justice to these people or something. I don't know. Which I feel like I was kind of turned off from Serial by that. And then when I actually listened to it, Serial is a much more unbiased approach than Making a Murderer is. Like, Making a Murderer is pretty much like, look at these bad guys and look at these good guys and they're in trouble, and like it tries to make everything a lot more black and white. But yeah, it's really interesting to me, especially listening to Serial. You're basically subjected to 14 stories told by 12 different people that are all supposed to be true. And I felt very overwhelmed and confused at so many points during Serial, which I guess is part of how you should feel. But yeah, and it does carry with it kind of this idea of like, it does shine a light on things that I feel like are like wrong about, like, you kind of hear about the justice system, and like me as a person, I think that the purpose of Making a Murderer in Serial were to make a person like me who's not in trouble with the law, never has been in trouble with the law, to be terrified that at some point I might become accidentally in trouble with the law. Because if that happens, good luck, see you in 16 years when we get a Netflix deal. Like, that's when we'll try to like rescue you from this. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's kind of a consequence of like modern media, that we like media to put us in positions where we feel powerful. And Serial and Making a Murderer definitely do that in a way that maybe is irresponsible at some points, and not necessarily by any fault of their own, but definitely a fault of kind of internet mob justice stuff. So but I really like Serial. Listen to it. That's like this like scathing indictment of all these things. I'm like, no, but it's pretty good. Yeah, it's really awesome. But it is really interesting when kind of at the point where we're at, where media has the power to do that, like in a real way, and especially when it's questioning things like kind of government issues that have just been the way they've been for so long, because they have been the power, and now it's kind of interesting to see maybe that shift is taking place, you know what I mean? And I don't know if that's good or bad. It's scary either way, but
well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's like the exact same issue with, no, it's not the exact same issue. It's like a more intense, more potentially destructive issue of the biopics. I think that once again is why I haven't listened to Serial, why I haven't watched Making a Murderer. Is because it's, I don't know, it's kind of the same reason I stopped like reading too many articles on Facebook. It's like, you don't have all the facts. All you're getting is something that someone wants you to hear, and they have an agenda, and it's is it healthy for us to do that? Is it healthy for us to take someone, especially in these kind of pieces of media, where this is someone's life, this is someone like who their entire life is affected by what decision gets made on these things, and you all of a sudden get to be someone who has no connection to them whatsoever, all of a sudden gets to be a voice in it and be part of the jury. And I don't know if that's like, I don't know. I guess normal juries don't know the person, but it's like, but I mean, like, is that healthy for the entire society on internet to do that? And is that okay?
Well, and it's
use that for your entertainment.
That's the part that I'm not sure, is because it's like reality TV. It's we like to see, I don't know if we get joy from kind of, I don't know. It's a really weird thing, because it is like, I listen to Serial to entertain myself at work. You know what I mean? Like that's why I'm listening to Serial. And I think it is important to note, I'm not going to say this for Making a Murderer, because I think it has a lot more problems, but Serial does do a really good job. I think the purpose of Serial in the end is more to make you ask questions about the way that we judge people legally. You know what I mean? Like, and for that it is very valuable to like look at something like that and be like, yeah, how did this happen? You know, and that's the thing about Serial is at the end it's very ambiguous as to you really can't say one way or the other who killed this girl or whatever, you know. But yeah, it's a really interesting thing, and I think that those questions at least are valuable that you might ask from it. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to. And now there's a season 2 of Serial.
Yeah, which I heard.
Which I'm not.
Isn't it over?
I'm not. Yeah, I think it is
Because it's been out for like a year.
Shit. Well, something to look forward to in the year 2015.
Well, it's good. That's something I didn't really know. I thought Serial was pretty similar to Making a Murderer, and I was pretty turned off by the fact that it was very biased and very much like that.
The communities are very similar.
Yeah.
The execution is much better for Serial and less biased than it is in Making a Murderer.
Good to know.
But,
good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that cheery note, we're at the end of our very first podcast.
Birthing complete.
We talked about ending with a challenge. I am still racking my brain on what sort of media I have consumed that you possibly could not have. So you should go first. I'll try and think of something.
Okay. This week, I am going to challenge you to watch some Regular Show. I will bring you over Regular Show, and you can watch Regular Show. For those of you who don't know, Regular Show is a great Cartoon Network cartoon featuring a raccoon and a bird who are best friends and are just like you. And it's super good.
They're also friends with the gumball machine.
Yeah. Well, Benson's their boss. I don't know if they're necessarily friends. But there is... Yeah. But it's a great show. They do. There's
Seems like
Muscle Man and High Five Ghost are their friends.
Oh, yeah.
Skips is sort of a friendly mentor to them. And Pops is an old man from the 1800s that they made crazy when they went back in time, which is kind of weird and disturbing, but it's real good. Yeah. So yeah, okay. I'll bring you a Regular Show. You can
all right.
chow down on some Regular Show.
I will watch some Regular Show by next time. I honestly don't think I've seen anything recently or watched anything recently that you haven't. So mine's not really a thing you actually have to watch necessarily, I guess. But here's what you should do. If you don't have one, start a VidAngel account.
Okay.
So VidAngel, for those of you who don't know, if anyone ever listens to this, is a service created to stream movies, but you get to choose what content you see and what content you don't. Say you particularly don't like the S word, but you're fine with saying damn it. Like, you can filter out just the S words so that you don't hear them. It just goes silent for anytime there's an S word, or you can do any sex or nudity or anything like that. So it's like kind of a editing if you want to, protect your eyes or anything like that. So anyway, on VidAngel, this is what made me get a VidAngel account. Was Matt showed me this. Was he pulled up Star Wars Episode 1.
Okay.
And there is a Jar Jar Binks filter on Star Wars Episode 1.
No way.
So you can go through and it lists, and on VidAngel there's an entire section for every bit of content. So it says, like, there's a section for sex and nudity, and there's a little drop down menu, and it says a brief description of every sex and nudity. So like, man and woman have sex on a bed or something like that, and you can edit that one sex scene out. Or a man says something vulgar using the D word, and you can filter just that one out, or you can filter all of them out. It's whatever you choose. So there's a whole giant list of individual descriptions of Jar Jar Binks, of where he's seen, where he speaks, and the descriptions. Some of the best descriptions are like, Jar Jar Binks ruins a perfectly good shot of some flags by showing his ugly mug or something like that. And you can filter that out.
That sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to do that this week. I'm going to watch Star Wars Episode 1 sans Jar Jar Binks. That sounds amazing.
It honestly takes out like 30 minutes of the movie, I think.
Which might be the right length for Episode 1.
if you take complete... They also have filters for the special edition add-on stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's pretty nice.
But it would just cut that out. It wouldn't
It doesn't put the old ones in, unfortunately.
Right.
I wish it did.
That would be really cool.
But there are some of the special edition things that I like, that I want in.
Yeah.
Like some of the, even though this may be blasphemy, but some like the CGI spaceship stuff I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Like the Millennium Falcon flying out of Mos Eisley. I like that part for some reason. Mm-hmm. So I would keep that in. And it lets you pick and choose which you want. So
That's pretty
so
cool.
yeah, go check out those filters. And I'm pretty sure it's free to start an account. And how that works is so you pay. I think when you first watch a movie, you will pay $20.
Because you like buy it.
Well,
right?
no, I think you pay from. I don't know if this is for sure, but I think you put $20 like into your account kind of thing. And then if you ever cancel, they'll give you that $20 back. It's essentially because when you do rent a movie, you are buying it for like 19 or $20,
Right.
but then you sell it back for $1 less. So it's like,
Oh, okay.
It's
So
like
you're basically renting it for $1.
you're basically renting for $1, but just for legal purposes to edit movies. You can't rent edited movies. You have to have it be your own property, edit it yourself,
Yeah.
and then sell it back.
Gotcha.
So that's how it works. But yeah, go check that out. And with that, we have come to the conclusion of the first CBA podcast. In search of a better name.
Follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you next.
We do have a Twitter account. We have a Facebook account. We're debating an Instagram account. We're not sure what we'll put on.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we're doing
Insta
We're
those
doing an
grams.
Instagram account, and you will see some of the greatest pictures you've ever seen on Instagram on that account. That is, you heard it here. It's a promise. Do you want to say the closing prayer?
CBA loves you. Goodbye.